Presently the president of War Wounded Foundation, which is an NGO that looks after people who have been wounded in wars or operations. So, I will tell you a little bit about my organization and then we can follow up with question answers. To safeguard our country, our soldiers have made innumerable sacrifices, including the ultimate sacrifice of their life, as well as those being injured in wars and operations. On an average, as per the historical records, normally three times the number of soldiers are wounded in action as against those killed in action. और जो युद्ध में घायल होते हैं उनके लिए एक युद्ध तो खत्म हो गया, लेकिन एक जिंदगी भर लंबा एक संघर्ष, एक युद्ध, एक लड़ाई जारी रहती है। और ये लड़ाई ऐसी है जो न सिर्फ वो खुद अपने आप लड़ते हैं, बल्कि उनका जो परिवार है उसको भी उनके साथ मिलकर लड़ना पड़ता है। And this is a lifelong battle. It's a lifelong battle to overcome all the challenges that the life has thrown at them. So, it is incumbent upon the society to be worthy of their sacrifice. And therefore, we as civil society, because as veterans we are also part of the civil society today, we need to look after these people who have made such immeasurable sacrifice for our country, so that we are worthy of their sacrifice. Because they looked after the nation when they were at their strongest. And so now it is our duty to look after them when they are no longer that strong. To look after these people who've been wounded in wars or operations, this foundation, War Wounded Foundation of India, was set up in 2002 by two very prominent and distinguished war veterans who were themselves wounded in action. These were Lieutenant General Vijay Oberoi, the former Vice Chief of Indian Army, and since आप लोग मराठा सेंटर में बैठे हैं तो ये भी कहना लाजमी है कि वो मराठा रेजिमेंट के पुराने कर्नल ऑफ द रेजिमेंट भी रह चुके हैं और 1965 की लड़ाई में उन्होंने एक पैर खोया था। एक पैर गंवाने के बावजूद वो इंडियन आर्मी के वाइस चीफ की पोजीशन तक पहुंचे थे। और उनके साथ दूसरे थे मेजर जनरल इयन कार्डोसो, who lost a leg in 1971 war. And he also went on to command an infantry division on the line of control. So these two very distinguished veterans set up the War Wounded Foundation as an NGO to look after the soldiers wounded in battle in 2002. And since then, this foundation has been performing a yeoman service in looking after the soldiers who've been wounded in action. Now, and foremost approach is to try and get an alternate second career for these boys so that they continue to remain socially and economically useful, which is very important, first of all, for their own psychological rehabilitation, as also for the rehabilitation of their families. Second, we try and improve their mobility. So, depending on the kind of disability or limitations that they have. We provide them with mobility devices like modified scooters or modified auto rickshaws, which can help them run some small business, etc. We also help them in improving their skills, not only their own skills, but even their children. Because after all, this battle has to be faced by the family as a whole. Imagine a 25-year-old young soldier getting wounded and becoming paralyzed for life. Either he becomes a paraplegic, which is, you know, paralyzed below the waist, or he could be quadriplegic, that means paralyzed below the neck. Imagine the impact on the family. So the family as a whole has to be looked after. We also help them to modify research and analysis in the problems of war wounded people. Towards this end, we have set up a chair of excellence in the United Services Institute of India, which is the oldest think tank of India, where jointly we fund projects to carry out research on the problems and opportunities for the war wounded soldiers. So we work in multiple fields in multiple modes. We are completely an NGO, so we do not take anything from the government. We are completely funded by donations that we receive through the corporate houses, industry, trade, as well as individual donors. And in that sense, we try and reach out to these boys who require our assistance. With that as my introductory remarks, we are now ready to take on any questions from the friends from media.
So these rallies are held at different places annually, or it is the only regimental?
Now, let me first explain the concept and purpose of the rally. The rally is our means of carrying out an outreach to, reach out to the maximum members of the War Wounded Foundation, or reach out maximum people who are wounded in action. And thereby learn from each other. They share experiences, they share brotherhood. It also gives us a platform whereby we have talks by experts on various challenges that they face. We also try and get the people from the various departments of the government who deal with the welfare of ex-servicemen or wounded people, like the record offices, the pension, and so on. So some of those issues that are dealing with their entitlement, etc., can also be resolved. And the rallies are held not necessarily in the regimental center. Regimental center does help in terms of, because the regimental centers, one of the roles that is charted for them is to look after the welfare of the veterans. So it facilitates the process, but not necessarily. We have held rallies wherever there is a concentration of war wounded people. We have held earlier rallies in Pune. We have held rallies in Nagrota. We also held, Nagrota is in Jammu and Kashmir, as you must know. We also held a rally in Delhi. So there is no permanent fixed place or location where you can conduct the rallies. We can conduct rallies as and when there is a perceived need. But it's an attempt to increase our reach and enable the
जो गवर्नमेंट ने अनाउंस किया रहता है वो उनको नहीं मिल रहा। तो ज़्यादातर हम भी देखते हैं कि हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के सामने शहीदों के सामने आके प्रोटेस्ट करते रहते हैं और मांग करते रहते हैं। इसके लिए आप क्या भी एक प्रमाण ले सकते हो क्या?